Why Canada's pipelines are struggling. The $25 billion dilemma. Canada possesses the third largest proven oil reserves in the world, primarily located in Alberta's oil sands.
However, its ability to fully capitalize on this immense resource is severely hampered by a critical infrastructure bottleneck.
Limited pipeline capacity to global markets. The vast majority of Canadian crude, around 99%, is exported to the United States, often at a discount due to the lack of access to alternative buyers. This dependence on a single customer has long been considered a strategic vulnerability, and the situation has given rise to what many call Canada's pipeline paradox, a country rich in oil but poor in options to transport it. At the heart of this dilemma is the Trans Mountain Expansion Project, TMX, a $25 billion federally owned initiative designed to triple the capacity of the existing Trans Mountain pipeline from Alberta to British Columbia's coast. The goal is to unlock access to Asian and other international markets by enabling tidewater export. However, TMX has been mired in delays, legal challenges, environmental opposition, and ballooning costs, underscoring the broader tensions between economic development, Indigenous rights, and environmental protection. For Canada, the Trans Mountain project represents more than just a pipeline. It symbolizes the struggle to reconcile resource wealth with political, environmental, and logistical realities. Why Canada's pipelines are struggling. Chapter 1. The export bottleneck. 98% of Canada's oil exports go directly to the United States. This isn't just a number.
It's a strategic and economic vulnerability.
With such heavy reliance on a single customer, Canada finds itself in a weak negotiating position, acting as a price taker rather than a price maker. This lack of market diversity means Canadian producers are often forced to sell their crude at a significant discount compared to global prices. Western Canadian Select, WCS, Canada's main heavy crude benchmark, frequently trades lower than international benchmarks like Brent or West Texas Intermediate. The key reason? Infrastructure. There's no efficient, large-scale route to get Canadian oil to global markets, especially those in Asia where demand is growing. Without pipelines reaching tidewater ports, Canadian oil is effectively landlocked, limiting its competitiveness and costing the country billions in lost revenue each year. This stark imbalance underscores why projects like the Trans Mountain Expansion are seen as critical, not just to diversify trade, but to redefine Canada's position in the global energy market. Chapter 2. The Trans Mountain Expansion. The Trans Mountain Expansion Project, TMX, is more than just a pipeline. It's a bold attempt to break Canada's dependence on the US as its sole oil customer. By tripling the flow of oil from Alberta to the coast of British Columbia, TMX is meant to serve as Canada's gateway to the Pacific and ultimately to high-demand markets in Asia. But this ticket to tidewater has come at a staggering cost. Initially priced at $5.4 billion, the project has ballooned to over $25 billion, making it one of the most expensive oil pipelines ever built. The reasons for the cost explosion are complex and deeply Canadian. The route cuts through some of North America's most challenging terrain, requiring major engineering feats. It's also been delayed repeatedly by legal battles, protests, particularly from Indigenous communities, stringent environmental assessments, and shifting regulatory requirements. Each delay added not just months, but millions to the budget.
And the federal government's 2018 decision to buy the pipeline to ensure
its completion turned what was once a private sector gamble into a public financial burden. Now, as construction nears completion, TMX faces a new challenge, proving its economic value. With global energy markets shifting toward decarbonization and uncertainty around long-term demand for heavy crude, every extra billion spent on TMX raises tough questions about its payoff. For some, it remains a necessary step toward market diversification. For others, it's a cautionary tale of what happens when infrastructure, politics, and environmental concerns collide. Chapter 3. Indigenous rights and resistance pipelines do more than traverse physical landscapes. They cut through complex histories, rights, and relationships. Many proposed pipeline routes pass through Indigenous territories, often without obtaining free, prior, and informed consent from all affected communities. This has raised serious concerns about sovereignty, environmental stewardship, and colonial legacy. A prominent example is the opposition from Wet'suwet'en hereditary chiefs to the Coastal GasLink pipeline project in British Columbia. Despite the Canadian government and elected band councils approving the project, the hereditary leadership, who hold traditional authority over the unceded Wet'suwet'en land, did not consent. Their resistance sparked a wave of protests and blockades across Canada in 2020, drawing national attention to the conflict. This situation underscores a critical issue. The pipeline debate is not solely about infrastructure or economic development, but about the recognition of Indigenous governance systems and the fundamental question of who has the right to say yes or no to development on traditional lands. Chapter 4. Geography is the enemy. Canada's geography presents significant challenges for pipeline construction. Harsh and rugged terrain, especially features like the Canadian Shield, make the process technically difficult and enormously expensive. Building a pipeline in such regions isn't as simple as laying pipe in the ground. It often involves blasting through ancient bedrock, tunneling through mountain ranges, and engineering routes across vast wetlands and permafrost zones. These geographic hurdles make long-distance east-west pipeline projects particularly costly and complex. As a result, most Canadian pipelines have historically been built along north-south routes connecting oil and gas fields to refineries and markets in the United States, where the terrain is generally flatter and construction is more feasible. This pattern reflects not only economic and logistical realities, but also how geography has shaped Canada's energy infrastructure and trade relationships. Chapter 5. Market consequences. Canada's heavy reliance on the United States as its primary oil customer creates a major vulnerability in its energy economy. With most of its oil exports flowing south, any shift in US demand, such as increased domestic production or a pivot to alternative suppliers, could leave Canada with limited options and reduced bargaining power. Compounding this issue, Canadian crude already sells at a discount compared to global benchmarks, partly due to transportation bottlenecks and limited market access. The $25 billion Trans Mountain expansion project represents a high-stakes attempt to change that. By providing a direct route to the Pacific coast, it aims to open access to Asian markets, potentially improving prices and reducing dependency on the US. However, the project carries significant financial and environmental risks. If global demand shifts away from oil, or if logistical, legal, or political hurdles persist, the investment could turn into an economic liability rather than a strategic breakthrough. Chapter 6. The future of Canadian pipelines. The question now is whether Canada can fundamentally rethink its approach to energy development. Can it create a system that both streamlines regulatory approvals and upholds the rights of Indigenous nations? Can it design smarter, more efficient infrastructure that doesn't require a $25 billion investment every time the country wants to access new markets? While federal ministers have pledged to fast-track permits and bring more predictability to the approval process, those words carry little weight without real action, and more importantly, without rebuilding trust with communities that have long been sidelined. Canada has abundant oil and the world still demands energy. But the path between supply and global markets remains murky. The pipeline dilemma goes far beyond engineering. It's a test of sovereignty, sustainability, and national strategy. If Canada fails to resolve it, the cost won't just be measured in dollars lost, but in diminished influence and relevance on the global stage.
Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel.